There's something about our relationship with guns that's uniquely American. Some say it dates back to when we were a revolutionary force of everyday people fighting for independence. Or perhaps from stories from the Old West instilled in us with a culture of rugged individualism.
American culture and gun ownership are deeply entwined. But it's also true the rate of gun violence is significantly higher in the United States than in other industrialized countries.
In this segment, we're going to look at how we can reduce gun violence through the lens of culture and society. We'll consider the cultural predictors of violence, which communities are most impacted by violence, and how we can change the culture in those communities from one of violence to one of safety.
What do we mean when we say culture? We're talking about those social norms, attitudes, beliefs, and habits that we share with others.
Media plays a big role in influencing our culture and how we think about guns. Regular exposure to violence, whether real or fictional, can desensitize us over time. At the same time, a media diet full of crime shows and violence can create the perception that our communities are less safe than they actually are.
Our individual experiences also influence our opinions. Growing up hunting or in rural communities with many guns and few problems with gun violence may make it harder to understand the problem of gun violence nationwide. On the other hand, someone who has been traumatized by gun violence may hold negative cultural attitudes towards guns and exaggerated perceptions of the problem of gun violence.
In reality, very few people will be directly affected by gun violence in their lifetimes. But its effects impact entire communities, eroding public health, causing economic disruption, and contributing to lasting individual and community trauma.
Changing the culture is a tall order, but let's look at 3 potential actions we could take to reduce gun violence.
The first action to consider is allocating state and federal funding for community-based violence intervention programs in the nation's most at-risk neighborhoods.
Most of the gun violence in any given community is caused by a few select people, perpetrators who are often well known to the local police. These intervention programs target those individuals with services to support a healthier, nonviolent lifestyle. Program workers are trained in conflict resolution and mediation, community organizing, mentoring, and case management, all in hopes of changing the culture in a given community.
The goal is to change community norms around gun violence by altering the behavior of those who have a high chance of becoming perpetrators. And these small changes could have major effects.
In Chicago, Project Safe Neighborhoods follow this strategy, allowing parolees with histories of violence and gun offenses to leverage their credibility and act as peer counselors to at-risk individuals. Other programs like this were implemented with success in Boston, Baltimore, and Stockton, California.
Supporters of these programs point to research that shows the focused deterrence approach does affect how many violent acts are committed by people in the program. When done correctly, it reduces law enforcement's footprint over time and empowers communities to drive their own public safety. Advocates claim community engagement and reconciliation are both necessary to remedy the trauma caused by community gun violence, and together will achieve more benefits than merely reducing gun access.
But funding for these programs is notoriously insecure, and securing a steady stream of funds could face significant political hurdles. Opponents worry that money to pay for programs might be taken from local police budgets, reducing their ability to maintain peace in the communities they serve. Others feel that these programs are a reward for violent offenders. They would prefer the police focus on the arrest, persecution, and incarceration of dangerous individuals as a deterrent. And there's an issue of recruitment, as individuals who have the most credibility in high-risk neighborhoods can also be the most apprehensive about working with law enforcement.
The second action we would like you to consider is a national public service announcement campaign.
Public service announcements, PSAs for short, are those ads you see on TV designed to raise awareness and change behavior.
The more you know.
Broadcast networks historically run these ads for free to educate the public about cigarettes, drugs, or safe driving habits. They can have a population-wide impact with a track record of success for raising awareness and pointing people toward resources and programs that already exist.
Public service marketing campaigns around gun safety could take on a variety of issues, from promoting the safe storage of guns to firearm training programs and suicide prevention.
Advocates for PSA campaigns believe they could be effective in creating a culture of safety, encouraging people to take concrete action to reduce gun violence, like locking up guns to keep away from curious children. The infrastructure to implement this kind of program is already in place, and PSAs can be paid for through private funding, reducing the cost to the public. Plus, PSAs don't require legislative approval or passage. which means they can get off the ground fairly quickly.
Those opposed argue that PSA campaigns can be costly, and even with some private funding, it's likely public dollars would be needed at some point. Some would like to see more direct action, as PSAs do not change any laws and rely on the public to have any effect. And while implementation can happen quickly, measuring impact is a long-term effort, and it's hard to know what's working and not in the moment.
Finally, consider a third action that focuses on planning to reduce the immediate risks related to guns, address the root causes of gun violence, and build an infrastructure to create a culture of safety. In this action, social agencies and local law enforcement would receive funding and resources to create community safety plans.
A growing number of these safety plans across the country help find jobs for teens, create safe parks and green spaces, clean up graffiti, and rehabilitate vacant properties.
Minneapolis has operated a program called the Blueprints for Action to prevent youth violence. The result? Between 2007 and 2015, the number of gunshot victims under age 18 dropped 62%, youth victims of crime dropped 34%, and youth arrests with a gun dropped 76%.
Advocates say this action allowed stakeholders to design plans that fit local conditions rather than take a one-size-fits-all approach. And proper funding would make it a priority for local government. Without adequate planning and engagement from the community, it's unlikely that any plan will be able to rebuild social relationships and create a new vision of community safety that reduces gun violence and benefits all residents.
Some of those opposed feel like this program is too slow to counter what is an immediate crisis in some communities. Others say that plans are great to have, but without funding for implementation, they're a waste of time. And by directing funding to high-risk communities, some feel their tax dollars are being spent on programs that provide them no direct benefits.